Welcome to this Java Break with Basis. My name is Nico Spence. I'm the Chairman and CEO of Basis International. And in today's Java Break, we're going to look at the first of a multi-part series on the best of BBJ12. The focus of today's session will be to talk about the database and system administration tools. Let's have a look at the agenda. We'll cover BBJ12, why it's the fastest BBJ ever. We'll look at system administration. We'll look at a demonstration of the new scheduler. We'll look at SQL database tools, and we'll look at several topics within that area. Firstly, the new built-in store procedures for accessing basis data files and CSV, comma-separated value data files, neither of which needs a data dictionary. We'll look at the improved database analysis tool and a demonstration thereof. And we'll finish off with more detail on the fully functional views. And we'll look at a very specific business use case for a fully functional view. And then we'll take your questions. The latest BBX, BBJ12, is the fastest BBJ we've ever produced. Part of that reason is that it runs on the latest, fastest Java, the 1.7. Now, just bear in mind that the Java 1.6 is being scheduled for end of life, the end of Q4 of 2012. So start your plans to migrate to Java 1.7 if you haven't already done so. Secondly, of course, the BBJ code has been optimized in several areas. Firstly, we've improved the string handling. We've refactored the string handling, and that has led to significant improvement where you have a lot of string concatenation and substring concatenation. The generation of Java objects for garbage collection from BBJ has been improved significantly. In other words, we've reduced the amount of garbage that BBJ creates and thereby improving the performance of the Java virtual machine and therefore of your applications. We've also added some language extensions to reduce the client-server round trips, so that'll be very significant in your GUI and your browser user interface applications. And we covered that in some more detail in the Java break that was entitled Writing Your Web Apps, but that'll be equally applicable to your GUI thin client type deployments as well. So all of this performance improvement positively impacts your character user interface, your graphical user interface, and your browser user interface programs. One of the most exciting features of the Enterprise Manager in BBJ12 is a new scheduler. This would allow you to specify tasks that need to be run in an automated fashion, on a regular fashion, weekly, bi-weekly, on a particular time of day, and not be reliant on an operating system to deliver that functionality. So again, trying to meet the principle of being operating system agnostic, utilize the functionality of the scheduler within the BBJ Services Enterprise Manager, and you'd obviate the need to code for specific operating system environments. Let me hand you over to Jeff Ash to take you through some more detail of this new functionality in Enterprise Manager.
So let's take a closer look here at this new scheduling feature in BBJ12. Let's start off with some terminology. We have task groups and we have tasks. A task group is basically a group of one or more related tasks to be executed synchronously at a particular point in time and with a specified repeat frequency. A task, then, is simply a single operation to be executed by a task group. There are a variety of different types of tasks. A task can be a BBJ program, a system call, which could be a script, an executable, a batch job, or we can pause or resume a replication job. The best way to get a good understanding of this is to simply take a look at some kind of a real-world example. So let's assume that we have a system that must remain up at all times. Now we use BBJ replication to create a synchronized copy of our live data files. We want to make a daily backup copy of this replicated data just for extra safety purposes. Now this needs to occur without any user action and without any downtime to our system. So how do we make this happen? Well, the first thing we need to do is pause the replication job to make sure that our target files are in a good state. Then we need to execute our backup process. And let's say, just to make this whole example more interesting, we also need to execute a BBJ program to perform some kind of processing of that backed up data before we copy it off. Then we need to resume the replication job. All of this could be performed by writing your own custom BBJ program, set of scripts, using the admin API to pause and resume the replication job. All of that could be done. However, using the scheduling feature, this can be done extremely easily. So let's go over to the Enterprise Manager and take a look at just how easy it is to build a scheduling job. Okay, so now we can see the scheduling panel in the Enterprise Manager. It shows us a task group, information about the scheduling of that group, the next time it will run, the last time it was run, and then any other associated file or name information that might be useful for us. So that's what that panel will show. But let's go ahead and create that scheduling job that we just discussed in our example. First thing we need to do is give it a name, and we'll just call this Daily Backup. We also want to give it a start date and time. Let's say we want it to start May 10th at midnight. And if we wanted to, we could specify an end point in time. Maybe we only want it to run for 6 months, a year, 2 weeks, whatever. We can specify a time in the future where we want it to no longer run. However, in this case, we want it to run indefinitely. The repeat, we can specify never. That means it will only run the one time. Or we can have it repeat hourly, daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. If we set hourly, we can also use a fractional number of hours. So if we wanted it to repeat every 15 minutes, we might put 0.25 every quarter hour or 15 minutes. If we wanted to run every 3 hours, then we'd put 3 in there. For the repeat weekly, this is kind of useful. When you set it for weekly, you set how often, every number of weeks that you want it to repeat, but you can also specify the days that you want it to repeat on. So we could say, I want it to repeat every week on Monday and Friday. So that gives you a lot of scheduling options there. However, in our purposes here, we simply want it to repeat daily, every day. Now we're ready to start adding tasks to our group. So we click the Add Task button, and we select from the task type that we want to add. In our example, we said the first thing we want to do is pause a replication job, so we select that. We select from our list of replication jobs. We only have one here, so we'll go ahead and use that one. Then the next thing we said we needed to do was to execute a backup script. So we make a system call. We locate our script or executable that we need to do. Here is backupdata.bat. If we click the Run Now button, we can test that and see how that's going to run from our system. We won't do that now. So we click OK. It's added to our list. Now we said the next thing we wanted to do was do some kind of processing with a BBJ program. And so now we select Execute BBJ Program, locate our program file that we want to execute. We could specify an alternate config file if we desire, a different working directory, a run as user. We can select the user we want it to run as, and the arguments that we want to pass into the program, and any of the other settings that are pertinent to that program, such as a session-specific class path, that kind of a thing. Again, here we can run that program and test it, see how it's going to run in this environment. So we've added that there. The final thing that we needed to do was to resume our replication job. So we select Resume, hit OK, and now our scheduled task, group of tasks, is complete. That simple, that quick, that easy. We hit OK, and now we see our task group added to the list here. We see a short description. It's going to start on May 10th, midnight. It's going to run daily. It shows us the next time it's going to run. When we expand out our group, it gives us some more information about the individual tasks that are in there. We can see that it's going to pause replication, pause Chili Company, or resume the replication, the system call, the BBJ program, and so forth. Okay, let's now take a look at a real-world scheduling example. The BBJ download page is a great example of this, and it's live and running right now. So at the download page, visitors to our site can download various versions of our software. They can download a released version, such as version 12, or past released versions, but they can also download a development build. Within each of those versions, there may be more than one build available that was built at a different date and time. And so there could be a number of possible choices. As you can see here in the screen, there are a number of development builds available from different dates and times. So what goes into the makeup of this download page? Well, BASIS has an automated build system, and the system is very sophisticated. What happens is that as our internal developers make changes, builds occur. These development builds are automatically stored in an Amazon S3 bucket located in the cloud. So when a visitor visits our download page, it dynamically generates a list of builds that are available in the S3 bucket. Now, the cloud can vary with regard to performance. Sometimes it can take 1 second. Other times it may take 15 seconds to access this list of files that are in this S3 bucket and generate a list of those to return back to the page. This variance in performance was not acceptable to us, and so what we did is we created a scheduled task to execute a BBJ program every 15 minutes. And what this program does is it reads the contents of the S3 bucket, it creates a property file with the list of builds, it replaces the old property file with the new one, and then since we use BBJ replication, what it does is it replicates this property file around the globe to all of our other download sites that are in closer proximity to some of our other users around the world. So let's take a look in the Enterprise Manager at how our product download page scheduled job is configured. When we look at the scheduling panel, we see our task group here. We also see some information about our group, which is that it began March 6th of 2012. It runs hourly every quarter hour. It is next scheduled to be run at 9:35 a.m. on May 4th, and the last time it ran was at 9:20 a.m. on May 4th. When we edit the job, we can see very clearly here it's a very simple job. It has a single task, a BBJ program. We can edit that and see some more detail about that particular task. We can see the program that's being run, the working directory that's set, the class path that we've chosen to use, the terminal, and that we wanted to run quiet mode. So after looking at these two examples, we can see just how easy it is to set up a scheduled job in BBJ now. And we can also see how powerful this new feature is, especially if we need to interact with some of the BBJ system directly.
Thanks, Jeff. So we mentioned that we've added significant value in the area of database management. Firstly, we have the new built-in store procedures that I referred to earlier, facilitating SQL data access from both CSV or BASIS keyed files without the need for a data dictionary. We've added the ability for you to store records with mixed case values in the keys, so you can look up records by key irrespective of case. We also have added new table analysis functionality with the status indicators in the Enterprise Manager. It's significantly faster and also gives you the ability to drill down for detailed information and automated repair of data dictionary entries. We've extended the capabilities of views in SQL. We now support any BASIS SQL grammar, so a combination of order by, group by, outer join, union, etc. You can use store procedures in your select statements, and you can nest the selects and the store procedures. Firstly, let's look at the new built-in store procedures. Some customers may not have a data dictionary defined for their data, but they still need to access this data from SQL, either from within their BASIS tools or from third-party tools like a report writing tool. We may have the need to join BBJ data with data contained in a comma-separated value file. All of this can be now done with two new system store procedures that we deliver to you as a part of BBJ 12. So the first of those is the get result set store procedure. It returns an SQL result set from a BBJ data file, again without the need for a data dictionary. All we have to do is specify the data file and a string template, and we can call it from any SQL enabled application. It's a very simple format, exactly like any other SQL call, but in this case using the get result set and passing the data file name and the string template. The get result set CSV store procedure is the other built-in store procedure that we're providing. It returns an SQL result set from a comma-separated value file. We also have the option, therefore, to specify a line delimiter, and you can join the results with results from existing BBJ tables. So here's a simple example, passing the file name, the string template again, and the line delimiter. Let me hand you over to Jeff again to give you a demonstration of this functionality.
So let's take a look now at getResultSet and getResultSet CSV in action. What we're looking at here is the query browser in the Enterprise Manager. We've executed the getResultSet call against the category file in the Chili Company database. We've given it the string template necessary to read the data from the category file, and we've executed it. It only took 123 milliseconds, so you can see it's very quick, and it returned our data just as any normal select statement would do. But what if we wanted to filter this information? Well, we can do that too. Instead of just making a simple call statement, we'll embed it inside a select statement, and we'll add a where clause. So we'll select from the results of this where cost method is equal to this. When we execute that, notice we get the filtered results back. And now let's take a final look at the getResultSet CSV. In this particular example, we're going to join the results from a table in our database, the customer table, with the results from the getResultSet CSV comma-separated values file. When we execute this, we get back our first and last names come from the customer table here, and then our favorite color, food, and pet come from our likes.csv file. Notice our likes.csv file contains a custom that matches up with the customer table in it, and then the plain text values separated by commas. This can be done with any number of CSV files and tables and any combination thereof. You can also do the same thing using just the getResultSet stored procedure as well, and use any combination of joins between getResultSet calls, getResultSet CSV calls, as well as tables in your database.
Thanks, Jeff. In BBJ 12, as we mentioned earlier, we've improved the database analysis tool. And we've said beforehand that it's much faster than previous versions, but don't take our word for it. Let me read out a quote from one of our active developers from the BBJ developer list, Stefan Knobloch. I just tested the improved analysis in Enterprise Manager against our nastiest table. It took 36 or more hours before, and now it is done in 30 minutes. It has 30 keys with 1.8 million records. Very good job. So let me hand over to Jeff to talk to you more about the features and the functions we've added to the table analysis function in Enterprise Manager.
First off, we've improved the speed of the analysis process. And so depending on the number of keys and indexes in your tables in the database, the analysis can now be up to 10 to 75 times faster in the amount of time that it takes to analyze your tables in your database. The other thing that we've done is we've added what we're calling database alerts. And this puts a status indicator icon in the Enterprise Manager. And there are 3 different levels of alerts that the table analysis process generates based on your database. First off, there are informational, then there are warnings, and then there are errors. And what we're going to do to understand this more clearly is to just simply take a look at some examples within the Enterprise Manager. So when we take a look at the Enterprise Manager, we see a new column here in version 12 called Status, and that indicates any alerts that may be available on tables in our database. Let's take a look at the first level, and that would be the informational level. On the invoice table, we have an informational message. So let's take a look at what that says. This says index segment on paid date on the index 4 is type in and may only be usable for equality optimization, but not for less than or greater than. An informational alert is simply something that is informational. It's not a warning, it's not an error, it's not a problem. It's just letting the database administrator know of some maybe peculiarity in their database that may impact how they generate queries, how they use this table in different ways. And so what we see here is just letting you know that, hey, we can optimize on an equal. We can't on a greater than or less than due to the type of data that's in this table. Now you as the administrator may say, oh, I know that. I've been aware of that for years. I don't want to see this alert on my table all the time, so I'm going to go ahead and just remove that. And then I no longer have to see it in my list as an alert. Now the next type of alert is a warning, and this is a little bit more severe. And when we right click on that and look at the alert, we'll see that it says column last name in table customer contains values which are longer than the defined size of the column 1. This may cause problems using certain third-party ODBC and JDBC applications. Then it goes on to tell you how to resolve it, how to fix the issue. A warning is simply something that is alerting you of a possible problem in certain situations. It may not be a problem in the way that you currently use that table. It may never be a problem for you, but it's warning you that it could potentially be a problem in some contexts. When we look at the customer table, we can see here what the problem is. We have it defined as variable length 1. But we have data in the last name in the last name column that's longer than 1, and so that's what it's warning us about. What we've done though is we've given you a quick and easy way of fixing this automatically. The auto fix button down here, we click that when we have selected tables we're interested in automatically fixing, and if there's something we can do for you automatically, it will show up here in the list. In this case, the customer table has a value too large alert which we can fix for you, and then it tells you what the proposed solution is. It says we're going to change the last name from 1 to 12. The 12 actually came from us looking at the contents of the last name column in your table, and we discovered that the longest last name in there currently is 12 long. So you may say, well, that's fine, I'll go ahead and change the column to 12 and be good. Or you may say, okay, well, it's 12 now, but I may want to add a last name that's longer at some point, so I'm going to go ahead and just set it to 20. Hit OK. Now it tells you what the proposed resolution is. When we hit Apply Fixes, it makes that change for us automatically in the data dictionary. Now we can also choose to then rerun analysis on that table or any other tables that were selected. And since we chose to rerun analysis, it analyzed the table again, found that there were no alerts, no warnings, and now our table looks good. The final alert type is actually an error, and we see here on the item table that there's an error. And it says column cost in table item contains data in a numeric column which could not be returned as a number. Then it goes on to tell you what the possible causes of this are. Usually bad data in your table, possibly a misdefined data dictionary, that kind of a thing. So it tells you exactly what is wrong and where the source of the problem could be. And so then you as the administrator have a great starting point to go in and track down this problem within your database.
The final item on our agenda today is a look at the enhanced views. A view acts like a table, but its records are derived from an SQL select statement. Pro5 and BBJ have always supported views, and standard views can consist of select items, one or more tables, and a where clause, most commonly used if you have multiple record types in the same table. So you might then use the where clause off of the record type field to then create a view that is distinct and gives you a normalized perspective of your database. But full-featured views can consist of arbitrarily complex SQL select statements, including nested select, outer joins, union, group by, etc. This does require a configuration setting to be put in place in the Enterprise Manager. To give you a practical perspective of how the full-featured views can be used in a business application, I have Christine Hawkins to show you how we've used that in the add-on software product. Over to you, Chris.
Let's take a look now at some full-featured views in action. We're using the add-on software demo database today for our examples. We can see that we have the full-featured create view turned on, and we have a couple of views here defined that we'll take a look at. In the add-on database, in the demo database, the balance for any given invoice isn't carried in its own field. So to know if an invoice is zero balance or not, we have to start from the customer master, retrieve the customer number, move to the invoice header table to look at a particular invoice, and then into the invoice detail table to sum up the transactions against that invoice. So only after we've gone through all of that logic can we know if the invoice is zero balance or not. We can do this sort of thing very quickly with views, and that way we can use the views over and over again. I'll show you very quickly the SQL in these views, and then we'll show how they run. So this view is named Invoice Balances. We're selecting several fields from the invoice header and detail files, and we've joined them together. And notice that part of our selection involves selecting the invoice amount from the header and then a sum of the detailed transactions, transaction amounts and discount amounts. So we're selecting this aggregated amount as the balance. This particular view then also uses a group by, so we know at which point we should break, if you will, and start accumulating a fresh balance. So this view will return balances for me for all of the invoices that I have in the system. The second view filters it down a little bit. I select some fields that I would like to actually see. Again, I'm joining my header and detail tables together. But here I'm doing a further join, and in this join is another select from the first view that we created, from the invoice balances view. So I'm going to select some fields from the tables, joined with a select from my view, and in this case I will further qualify it to say, show me just where I have balances that are greater than 0. Let's see how these run now in Enterprise Manager. We'll go to the SQL tab, and we'll start with the largest view first. So here we're doing a select from our invoice balances view. And we can see that we've selected information, customer number, invoice number, and so on, and the original invoice amount as well as the current balance. And again, this is showing all of them, 304 rows, because we have 0 balance as well as non-zero balance invoices. Let's run it again and filter it down. So let's use our open invoices query. Alright, in this view, the 0 balance invoices aren't shown. We've asked to see only those invoices where the balance was greater than 0. And notice in this one we have both Company 1 and Company 2. So I can cut that down even further now by adding my own where clause. And if we run that again, we'll see that it cuts our result set down basically in half. So now we're only looking at non-invoice balances for Firm 1. So a great example of using full-featured views, and I can quickly use these over and over again in any code in add-on where I need to answer the question about the balance of my invoices.
Thanks, Chris. That wraps up our demonstrations for today. To summarize, we've spoken about how BBJ 12 is the fastest BBJ ever. We've looked at some of the key features under system administration, the new scheduling function. We've looked at some of the SQL database tools, the built-in store procedures for both basis data files and CSV data files that don't have data dictionaries. We've looked at the improved database analysis tool, and we've looked at the fully featured views in a practical use case. Next time we'll continue with more of the best of BBJ 12. We'll cover topics such as the development tools, barista enhancements, etc. So let's take your questions.